everybody. It is the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Debbie Hibbard, and I work as the Patron Services Supervisor with the State Library. And as part of my duties, I handle State Library interlibrary loan requests, both borrowing and lending. And so I'm happy to share my experience with using OCLC WMS to process requests, and hope this webinar will be helpful. I'm joined today by Kathy Crum, our Technical Services Supervisor, who's going to be manning the chat. And when my portion of the presentation ends, we'll be joined by Ilona Burdette of the KYVL, who's going to discuss the statewide courier service and how to utilize this resource for sharing and receiving interlibrary loan materials. And just a little housekeeping to get started. If you have any issues like with sound, just chat those in to the chat box in the right-hand corner of your screen and let Kathy know. And also, please send questions throughout. We welcome any questions you have. If we don't know the answer, we'll try to find it. And also, the webinar is being recorded and will be available in the online learning portal within a week. So you can always go back to it and watch it at your convenience. Captioning is also being provided. Live captions are available both inside Collaborate and in Stream Text, and you may choose which one to use. And the Stream Text link is in the chat. You just click on that to view captioning in a separate window. And hopefully we'll have some time at the end. I did run a little long on this, so got a little wordy here. So hopefully we'll still have some time at the end to answer questions. Okay. Okay, my thing is not. Just one moment, please, and we'll get, I'm having some trouble here. Just a minute. Okay, all right, now I'm ready to roll. Okay, so just to go over what we're going to be talking about today, we are going to do an introduction to interlibrary loan, just kind of go over some of the basics, and then we'll go into the weeds with the ILL module, World Share Management. Then we'll specifically go through borrowing in WMS and lending in WMS. And then we'll have some wrap-up bits where we talk about trying to go into getting status updates on OCLC WMS and how you can get additional training for WMS and things of that nature. Okay, so introduction to interlibrary loan. A quote attributed to the Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca states, "There is no delight in owning anything unshared." Given that sentiment, I think Seneca would highly approve of the practice of interlibrary loan. Sharing information is at the core of everything we do as librarians. It meets the fundamental human need for knowledge, and it is basically what libraries are all about. So, what is interlibrary loan? I think it's kind of self-explanatory. It's really right there in the name. But as it's formally defined by the Interlibrary Loan Code for the United States with explanatory text, interlibrary loan is the process by which a library requests material from or supplies material to another library. The purpose of interlibrary loan, as defined by this code, is to obtain, upon request of a library user, material not available in the user's local library. And that is on the ALA page. They have a LibGuide to interlibrary loans. The code further explains that it's not intended to substitute for good library collections. It is meant to complement collections. It is based on a tradition of sharing resources between various types and sizes of libraries, and the belief that no library, regardless of size or budget, is completely self-sufficient. So no library is an island. ILL may also be used to obtain materials that are owned by your library, but which are not available because they're damaged, missing, or they're checked out. And finally, ILL rests on the belief that all libraries have something to contribute and should be willing to lend if they are willing to borrow. So you know the quote in Shakespeare, neither a borrower nor a lender be. So the code says if you're a borrower, then a lender you need to be. Okay, the American Library Association advises that all U.S. libraries should follow the code, and that is the Interlibrary Loan Code for the United States with explanatory text. It was first adopted in 1917, later revised in 2001, I presume because that's about the time the rise of the internet was, becoming very kind of everywhere in society. And it most recently was updated in 2023 by the Reference and User Services Association, which is a division of ALA. And the code can be found at the web address that I placed there at the bottom of this slide in red there. So per the ALA, the U.S. ILL code is intended to provide guidelines for exchanges between libraries in the United States when no other agreement applies. The code does not override individual, consortial, state, or regional agreements, which may be more liberal or more prescriptive. So it is a guideline. It is not the law. There's no way to enforce it. There's no oversight body that enforces it. It's really intended to be adopted voluntarily, and kind of every library kind of makes sure that other libraries are kind of within the code, I guess, is what they're thinking. And libraries that don't follow the code may, so any library that isn't following the code, they may not be able to get items from another library. Another library may not approve of how they're going about doing things because it's not part of the code, and so they can suspend service to any library that is failing to comply with the provisions of the code. Now, your library will develop your own policies and procedures based on your institutional and community needs, but the code can provide a good place to start when you're determining how ILL is going to work at your library. And that gets us into policy. Why should you have a policy? So one way to formalize how ILL is going to work at your library is to develop a policy. And developing an interlibrary loan policy is very important because it's going to be used as a basis for making decisions about resource sharing at your library. So some of the advantages of having a policy are it empowers staff to provide consistent service. It allows patrons to feel confident in using your services because they have clear expectations. And it provides other libraries with clear guidelines on which to base their interactions with your staff. So it lets everyone know what's what, basically. Per the ALA, some overriding concerns that you should consider when developing or using any policy is your policy should be aligned with your library's missions and objectives, first and foremost. It should be clearly stated so that a reasonable person will understand what is expected. And that's basically, no shop talk or anything like that, just in layman's terms. It should be reviewed regularly by the library's governing authority and even legal counsel if you feel that's necessary. You want to keep it relevant and up to date. And it should be enforced even-handedly and not in a manner intended to benefit or disfavor any person or group in an arbitrary manner. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered in a policy. When you're borrowing items, some of the questions you might consider putting into a policy or addressing in a policy would be how are you going to make requests? Are you going to accept requests from your patrons online? Are you going to create an online form? Can they call in a request by phone? Can they email you a request? Will you have request limits? So the number of items that a patron can request in a month, for example. Which patrons can use interlibrary loan? If patrons have outstanding charges, will you allow them to use that service? Will you pay fees to borrow? The state library pays up to $25 for the loan of an item. So are you going to set an amount, or will you not only request from libraries that don't charge? Will you charge patrons for lost and damaged items? And if there are exceptions for not charging, then what are they? And what methods of notification will you use to let patrons know their item is ready? So the same goes for lending. Some questions you might consider. Who are you and how can you be contacted? So who's the person who does ILL at your library, the main contact? You want that information in there. There's a place in the policies directory in WMS, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit, where you can place that information. Also, what types of requests will you accept? Will you lend audiovisual? What type of material will you lend? How long will you lend materials for? Are you going to charge a fee for materials? Will you accept renewals or no renewals allowed? And if you've had any questions from past borrowing libraries about ILL transactions, those are good things to consider, whether that needs to be in your policy or not. So you might look at some past questions. And a good resource for ILL policy development is the Interlibrary Loan Practices Handbook. We have that available for you to borrow in our Library Science Professional Development collection. And many of the questions on the last two slides are mentioned in that book. If you want to see sample policies, I would suggest just Googling Interlibrary Loan Policy, because many libraries put their policies online, and you will come up with all kinds of different sample policies. Also, just a plug for our Library Science Professional Development collection, and we do have a lot of titles, both physical and digital, that you can check out through us or through Kentucky Libraries Unbound. And they'll help you with any questions like policy development or any other topic you might think about. We do have a page of the titles that we've added just within the last year to both our physical collection and KLU. You can find that in the URL in red down at the bottom of the screen. And to request titles, you can either email me or the reference desk email there in green at the top of the page, or you can also request through your library's interlibrary loan department. For KLU, if you have an account with your library, which most people that I know who work in libraries have an account with their library, then you can, if your library participates in Kentucky Libraries Unbound, you can access those books with your library account. So on to copyright. Just like the Interlibrary Loan Code for the U.S. mentioned earlier, another code to consider when dealing with ILL is the United States Code. The U.S. Code is the codification by subject matter of the general and permanent laws of the United States. It is not a set of guidelines, unlike the Interlibrary Loan Code. It is the law, and it can be enforced as law. Just a disclaimer, this is going to be a very brief overview of copyright as it pertains to interlibrary loan, because copyright is extremely complicated and deserves its very own webinar. We do have one on our archived webinars page, Intellectual Property Awareness for Public Libraries. That webinar was done in 2016, and you can find it under Library Support Archived Webinars in the reference section. We also have books on copyright, so just throwing that out there. So what does copyright cover? It covers the authors of original works of authorship, including literary, dramatic, musical, artistic, and certain other intellectual works. And you may have noticed that I do have some cartoons on my topic slides. I was a responsible librarian. I did go to www.cartoonstock.com and paid the fee. They are the copyright holder. Make sure you practice what you preach. Okay. So there are several sections in Title 17 that affect interlibrary loan. And the first is Section 109, that's first sale doctrine or right of first sale. And the way this affects libraries is that you, and we're going on to reproduction, hold on here. You are allowed to borrow and lend returnables via interlibrary loan that you've purchased. So any books, DVDs, CD audiobooks, things of that nature that you've purchased for your library are covered under right of first sale. And you don't have to indicate any kind of copyright compliance when requesting and supplying returnables through interlibrary loan. The next section that affects libraries is 108, limitations on exclusive rights, reproduction by libraries and archives. And Congress enacted Section 108 in 1976, authorizing libraries and archives to reproduce and distribute certain copyrighted materials without permission on a limited basis for the purposes of preservation, replacement, and research. Section 108 attempts to balance the interests of publishers and libraries regarding ILL arrangements. And it does not replace fair use, which is codified in Section 107. And fair use can also be considered. It applies to libraries, archivists, and library users just as it does to everyone else. So you can also consider fair use. Now, Section 108 permits libraries and archives to make a copy of an item held by a library for interlibrary loan, make up to 3 copies of damaged, deteriorated, lost, or stolen works for the purpose of replacement, only if the replacement copy is not available at a fair price, make up to 3 copies of an unpublished work held by the library for the purpose of preservation. If the copy is digital, it can't be circulated outside the library. Reproduce, distribute, display, or perform a published work that is in its last 20 years of copyright for the purposes of preservation, research, or scholarship if the work is not available at a fair price or subject to commercial exploitation, and make a copy of an entire work for a user or library who requests it if the work isn't available at a fair price. And these restrictions have to be observed when appealing to this exception. It applies only to libraries and archives open to the public, so that would cover public libraries. Copies can't be made for commercial purposes. The copying can't be systematic. In other words, if you're copying a lot, would you be better served by a subscription? It can't replace subscriptions. And all copies made under this exception must include a notice stating that the materials may be protected under copyright. If you want to look at the full code there, you can go to, or the section 108, you can go to that let me see here, uscode.house.gov, yeah, in red there. Now there is a really cool tool on the internet called the Copyright Spinner, and it allows you to use your mouse to turn the wheel chart to the desired section, which gives you guidance for various situations affected by Section 108. It's kind of fun to turn the little wheel around, and it gives you these different possible situations, and you can determine how Section 108 will affect your situation. Okay, in 1978, members of the National Commission on New Technological Uses of Copyrighted Works negotiated guidelines based on the 1976 Copyright Act that described what amounts of copying would substitute for a subscription to or purchase of a work. Now, copyright holders and libraries tried to agree on these details when drafting the CONTU guidelines, and full agreement was never reached, so it does not have the force of law. These are truly guidelines. They were based on economics of scholarly publishing in the 70s, but many librarians now feel they're really outdated. And some libraries have attempted to come up with their own process for calculating ILL copyright fees. If you have a real burning desire to work on that, you can. However, a lot of libraries still follow the CONTU guidelines. CONTU says that during one calendar year, no more than 5 copies may be received from any one work whose publication date is within 5 years of the date of the patron's request. So in the case of journals, a library may receive through ILL 5 articles per journal title published within the last 5 calendar years from the exact date of the request. Now, the way this all plays out when you're doing any requests for articles in WMS, and I'll be showing you this again later, you do have a copyright compliance statement that comes up for any article requests. It doesn't come up on loan requests because those fall under U.S. copyright law, but for any copy requests, you're going to get that copyright compliance statement. And you're going to choose either CCG, conforms to Contu guidelines, if it's newer than 5 years, or CCL, conforms to U.S. copyright law, if it's older than 5 years. And again, we will go over that a little bit further. Now, if you have a patron who has a whole lot of requests and you're exceeding Contu guidelines, then you have several options here. These are some to consider. You might refuse to request the copy and cancel the request, pay royalties or get articles through an authorized delivery service, attempt to borrow or purchase the journal, request permission from the copyright holder, refer the library user to a nearby library that has the journal or book, or purchase a copy of the article from the publisher's website. Sometimes you can Google and find free, quote-unquote, online copies, and you can provide your patron with those links. And you can evaluate it for fair use. So those are some of the things you can do. Now, to finish up this section, just a little bit about our role in Kentucky as far as interlibrary loan is concerned. We do have an agreement with OCLC to ensure that all Kentuckians have access to ILL services. And so KDLA does pay for some Kentucky public libraries to have access to WorldShare as long as our funding remains available. We consider ourselves the lender of choice because we get Courier 5 days a week. So if you have a request, then we're more likely to be able to get it out maybe by the next Courier day, which is Monday through Friday. So that's something to consider when choosing a lender. We also, unlike a lot of libraries, don't share audiovisual materials because they're very pricey. So that's understandable. But we will send out AV through interlibrary loan. And we do offer training resources, and I'm always happy to get with anybody that's having trouble with any kind of requests, and we can do a Zoom meeting and I can walk you through it, or we can do a phone call, whatever you want to do. I'm happy to help with that. And just the final thing, we're not KYVL. A lot of people think that we run the Courier. We actually do not. A separate state agency called the Kentucky Virtual Library runs the Courier. We are complementary but separate state agencies, and that's just something to consider. If you have any Courier issues, you need to contact Ilona, and she's going to be here at the end of the webinar to answer questions. Does anybody have any questions real quick? Okay. So now we're going to go into WorldShare Management, the ILL module. Again, we do pay the portion of ILL, the ILL portion of an OCLC subscription for several public libraries across the state. If you're not sure whether we pay for your library or not, or if you're eligible for that, I do have a list of the libraries that are subsidized. You can contact me for that, or contact Beth Milburn, who is our Deputy Commissioner, regarding that. Although we do pay for some subscriptions, we can't set you up with an account. That has to be done through OCLC. And if you need to contact OCLC support, You just let them know that you're a Kentucky library with a KDLA subscription, and you can email them at support@oclc.org. They're pretty good about getting back to you within a day. It depends on the complexity of your issue, but usually they'll get back to you in a day. It's certainly for setting up an account. They can get back to you pretty quickly. And if you want to call them, there is a toll-free number there. They are headquartered out of Dublin, Ohio, so that's a 1-800 number you can call. Okay, now this is the home page for the ILO module. And let's just take a tour around it here real quick. Let me grab my arrow. So over here to the left, you see the menu. And it has a number of tabs. You have Discover Items, borrowing requests, lending requests, purchasing requests, off-system requests, and print queue. So this is the main menu where you can borrow, track borrowing, lending of requests, print your paperwork for your requests. I have never used purchasing requests or off-system requests. Off-system is supposed to allow you to work or track requests that don't come through WMS, like any type of paper request that might be emailed to you, anything of that nature. You can just put it in there, the off-system requests, and kind of track it that way so you don't lose track of it. Also, in the middle of the screen at the top, you see that we have a search box, and it allows you to enter information, either the ID request number, you can search by patron's name, you can search by the title of the book. It has a number of different options there. And it can also let you find any active or closed requests. Then below the search request box, you have these quick links. And the first one is for borrowing. Then you have lending.
Uh-oh, looks like Debbie got kicked out of the session, so hopefully she will be back momentarily. Yes. See, everybody's having problems with the internet this afternoon. So hopefully Debbie can get back in here in just a minute. All right. So how many people out there do interlibrary loan as part of their job? Y'all can text it into the chat if you all would like. And just as I asked that, looks like maybe Debbie is back with us, so I will be quiet now.
Okay, let's get back to it. I'm sorry about that. We are having technical difficulties today. That makes life interesting, doesn't it? Okay, so I was showing you the screen. I think I had just finished doing that. This is the home screen. All right. I hope everybody can hear me okay. Because I can't see the chat now, so. Okay. There we go. So, when searching for requests, you can enter many different types of information as you see in the drop-down menu here. So request ID, article title, patron title, just lots of options. And again, you can look for active requests or closed requests. Now, a note about closed requests, they are searchable by patron name and ID during the period specified to retain patron data. The default period for retaining patron data is just 1 month. You can specify between 1 and 84 months to retain this information in the configuration settings, which we'll go over in a little bit. And when a closed request exceeds the patron data retention period, patron information is removed from the request. All request results are limited to 500 most recent. And here you see how that looks when you enter a search request. So I've entered a search request for one of my current items that one of my patrons requested. And here's your ID number right in front of the title. And if we were to scroll down further on, you'd see the lenders I've requested from, the patron information, and so on. Okay, the next tab allows you to track your borrowing requests. You can see that I have 3 requests. No, that's not what I'm doing. Okay. So, discover items. So, discover items is going to come up whenever you're trying to find a title for either a book or an article. When patron makes a request, you're going to click on that tab. It's going to bring up a search page where you can enter information to find the item you're wanting to request to borrow. So, I'm wanting Target Alex Cross by James Patterson, and I want specifically an audiobook. So I am just going to put that information in there, and then I'm going to click the blue search button. And that is going to show up, that request is going to show up in my borrowing requests here. So you see I have 3 produced requests. I have 18 items that have been received. I have 3 items that are overdue and 4 items that have been marked as returned. And when those 4 items are received back by the library, then I'm going to mark them as checked incomplete, and that's going to disappear from my screen. And we'll see that later. And on from borrowing to the lending tab, as with borrowing, this tab lets me track my lending requests. So here's lending. I have 8 requests for us to lend items in Can You Supply. We've supplied 50 items and currently in use. And 42 are currently in use, and 10 have been returned to us and are in transit. So you can see their status right there. Now, quick links for borrowing. So back on the home page, these same links are under the corresponding tab in the main menu over here to the left under borrowing. But quick links shows only produced items, received items, and returned items, and a few other things that will pop up. It's really just supposed to be a snapshot of your borrowing activity and links to items that you really maybe need to work on. Okay, and if I click on my produced borrowing quick link, I'll see the ID number, so that's over here, the status of the request, the media type, it'll be a book. If it's a sound recording, you'll see a little audio symbol, the title, the patron, the institutional symbol for the lender, and the date it was requested. Now, under Quick Links Lending, again, just a snapshot of your lending activity. They have supplied, returned, and can you supply. Can you supply is going to be requests that you need to work. So these are requests that have come in from libraries that they're wanting to borrow an item from you. And here you have, again, the request ID, the status, media types. See, there are little sound recording symbols for audiobooks. And then you have titles. You have the institutional symbol of the library that wants to borrow it and the time to respond. And then the last quick links area over here is other. And you have a number of different links in that area. This is where you're going to find your policy directory. And the policy directory is really important. It gives information on your particular institution, your lending, copying, and deflection policies, your supplier status, information about your collections, and when you're open, and contacts at your library. So you'll want to have all that information filled out in policy directory. And so here's our policy directory page. And at the far left-hand side here, you can search by any combination. It doesn't have to be the institutional symbol or the institution's name. If you wanted to look up our policies, you could put in KSL, which is our institutional symbol, or you could put in Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives and then click the green search button down there. You can do a combination search too if you want to find all the OCLC suppliers that do Rush supported lending. Then you can mark OCLC supplier and Rush supported, and then you would you can also do keyword search up here, I believe. Oh, well, you would put in the city or state. You can actually put in the state of libraries you're looking for, and then just click search, and it'll come up with all Kentucky libraries, for example, that are OCLC suppliers that support Rush handling. And you have these tabs here at the top. The first is your profile. The second gives you collections. Then you have policies, your schedule that your library is open, and contacts. For policies here, you can add policies by clicking on the green button. You can also edit or delete policies. You see we have 7 here. And sound recordings, for example, we do not lend out of state for our audiobooks, so that's in-state use only. The schedule is another thing you might want to go ahead and have filled out. And you see we are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. You can add dates. You can also edit and delete dates over here. And closures, you can put in any closures. For example, if you have a number of snow days and you're going to be closed for a number of days, you can put that in here and take down your symbol so other libraries know not to request from you. For example, we are not open on Memorial Day, so I've put that in here and taken down our symbol. The way that you do that to edit a closure is you just click on edit, and then you put the title, like we're closed for Memorial Day, it's a holiday, you put the start date, the end date, and then OCLC supplier, you can click on no, and that will take your symbol down, and it'll be grayed out when people go to look, and they won't be able to request from you on that day. Also, your contact information is very, very important to have. I have found a lot of libraries, not necessarily in Kentucky, but other out-of-state libraries that don't have information on who to contact, or it's outdated. So just be sure to keep that up to date. Now, service configuration. So that's the next one over here on other. And when you click on service configuration, you have some options here to the left-hand side. You're going to click on World Share ILL. and that's going to give you another left-hand menu there. I'm not going to go over all of these just for the sake of time, but I did want to go over some that allow you to create different types of efficiencies to make your life a little easier. So the first one is constant data, and the second one is custom holdings groups. So constant data allows you to create data records that can be saved and applied to both borrowing and lending requests. This information is about your library, and it's the type of information that doesn't change, like your physical address, for example. It also helps you to minimize error, the possibility for error, so you're not doing typos. And it saves you time, more importantly than anything else, it saves time. It's going to instantly populate your borrowing and lending fields with the information, like your address, for example, again. And also, if you have regular patrons who request ILL, you can create a constant data record for a patron and have their account number and their contact information in there, and it will automatically populate when you choose that. Okay, the way that you configure borrower constant data, you're going to go to the Borrower tab here and just click on that, and then like I said, I've had some created for repeat customers. We have people who request research articles a lot, and the lender data that I have is just a default, which has my default due date for the number of weeks that I set for lending requests, as well as our billing and shipping information, which is entered automatically. So it saves a lot of time from having to type that out each time I fill a request. And here's an example. You see up here, here's my request. Over here to the left, I've got myself as a borrower. And when I click on Apply Constant Data, Debbie Hibbard, it just goes ahead and populates all of this information, my address, my phone number, my email address, and so on. Another thing that you might want to do is set up custom holdings paths, and this allows you to organize and prioritize lenders by creating sets of preferred lenders that you've researched ahead of time. And by using them, you increase the likelihood of requesting from a lender that can provide you what you need. And you can set these up any way you want. You can do it by loan policy, material format, geographic nearness, that type of thing. And again, it's a time saver. It allows you to automatically populate fields with information. Okay, so when you're doing this, your first step is going to be to create a custom holdings group. So over here on the left-hand side, see I have my custom holdings groups. And these are just, for example, Fast Kentucky would be libraries that are close to us geographically, that sort of thing. And then when I want to create my customs holding path, I take the second step, click on that tab. That brings this up. It has my holdings groups already in here, and I just click. And then I can choose a tab. So, for example, if I just want to libraries that lend audio visual materials, I can create a path that I have entitled AV. And these are free lenders from all over the nation that lend audiovisual materials. And so I'm going to add from that custom holdings groups, click add, and that's going to go over here. And the way that you see that when you're making a lending or a borrowing request is you've got your title, you've got your author, and then when you see your different libraries that have your records for libraries that have that particular item, you can go over here and you see it says filter by. You can click on custom holdings paths and the ones that you have created will pop up. And once you choose like I chose the AV Custom Holdings Path Group. It's going to automatically populate your lender string with all of these libraries that lend for free AV materials. Okay, so another thing about the lender string, I just want to mention this real quick in case it's not real obvious to people who haven't used this or used it much. So the way it works is when you put in a borrowing request, it's going to go to this first institutional symbol. It's going to go to that first library. If they deny it, it's going to automatically go on to the next one. If they deny it, it's going to go on to the next one until it hits a library that will fill it. Yeah. Okay. How do you know if it's a library that lends for free? That should be in the policies directory. So that's back here on that quick links. Let's see, go back to the slide. Yeah, OCLC policies directory. You can get into the directory and you could search if you want to see all the libraries in Kentucky, for example, you could search by Kentucky. And then you can go through their policies and look at their policies and see if they lend. Okay. So, let's see. Yeah.
Another question.
Is it bad form to request from the same libraries frequently? No, I don't think so. I know I do. So, no, it is not. Definitely not. Okay, any other questions? We were right at the questions mark. That's great. Great timing. That's right, especially if you're requesting from us. We are happy to have your requests. Okay. Now, for some reason, my screen has disappeared again. We're having lots of fun today.
We're still with questions.
Let's see. Got it. Okay, now it's come back up. All right, ILL borrowing in WMS. So as you see, the patron here is asking to find a book that you saw there a few months ago, which is a hardcover and has lots of pages inside. If you don't happen to have anything like that at your library, you can always request it from another library. And so we're going to look at some borrowing requests and how you create those in WMS. So the first thing that you're going to do, you're going to click on, again, Discover Items. Grab my arrow here, Discover Items. And the default is going to come up to this advanced search page where you have a number of different search fields. Now you can add or delete search fields with these little green and red buttons over here. And you can also use Boolean operators like and or not over here in front of the search fields. And then you see under the search fields here, you have format, language, and so on. So you can, format is one that I use a lot. And also, just to show you some of those fields, those main fields, some of the things that you can request by, I use ISBN a lot. I think that's the easiest way to find a book, or ISN for a journal title. ISBN, not ISBN. Yeah. Our cataloger here is saying no ISBN. Okay, so yes, I use that a lot. Of course, you can do the title and the author and so on, but they give you a lot of different options. All right, so here I am requesting a book that we have. This is actually a patron of ours who has requested this. And it is Human Resource Management in the Public Sector by Ronald J. Burke. Okay, so over here you see I have sorted it by library with the highest library count highest. So this is the record, the very first one, that has the most holdings. Okay, and you can also change that if you're not getting the right titles or titles that are similar but they are not the right thing. You can do relevance. You can also sort by newest date published, that type of thing. And then over here, we have all the libraries that have this item. Another thing you want to make sure that you look at is the format. You don't want to choose a record, for example, that's an ebook necessarily. We don't borrow, the state library does not borrow ebooks. Most libraries are not licensed to fill those requests anyhow. So just make sure that you're choosing the right format. Under each of these, you can also search for the similar versions that have the same title and author. So you can look for different versions. Okay, and you see here all the libraries that are holding this title. Now you're going to have several tabs up here at the top. You can choose to look at every single library that has it. You can look at only the state libraries that have it, so only Kentucky libraries, or you can look at regional holdings. And in the middle here is all the information about this particular. So here we have Northern Kentucky University, the very first one. Yes, they are a supplier. It tells you copies or loans and how much it costs. And I can't see. Here's the holdings, which is very important. So over here are the holdings. If this were a journal, it would tell you what years, what volumes they have, and so on. I went ahead and marked the Library of Congress here because my experience with the Library of Congress is that they do in-library use only. So I don't request from them very often. I will request articles from them, but as far as books are concerned, every single one that I've gotten has had something on it, a note on it that said in-library use only, so I kind of stopped using them. Okay, and you see here I have chosen 6 libraries for my lender string. To do that manually, you're just going to, if you don't have a customs holding path made up, you're just going to go and click yes under supplier, and that will move that institutional symbol up here into the lender string. And then you just click on create request. And here's your request. It has all this information is automatically populated. You're going to make sure that you choose whether it's a loan or a copy. Again, if you choose copy and it's an article request, it's going to bring up that copyright compliance statement. You have your format here. That's already, all of this is going to already populate. Now over here I have my constant data. I have one for articles and one for books. These are kind of like default ones. And down here you see the libraries that are in the lender string. As you go on down this request, I have entered the constant data for books, and it just populates this with all of that billing and shipping information. That would be a pain to have to type out. So, and over here you see you can check if you use ILL fee management. Now, and you can also put in your maximum cost that you're willing to pay for a particular interlibrary loan. We do not use ILL fee management. I was reading about it. It says that it's set up to let you reconcile resource sharing charges and payments through your monthly OCLC invoice. I have never checked it, so I think you probably have to set that up through OCLC to use it. And then here you're going to enter your patron's information. Again, if you have constant data for that particular patron, you can click on that and it just goes ahead and populates all that. But if you don't, you're going to just enter their name, their account number, and their contact information. And then down here at the bottom, you have request history. That will show you the libraries and the reasons for denial. So you can kind of see if it was missing, it was in use on loan, you know, if it was a policy problem, that sort of thing. And when you are ready to send your request, you just click on send request. Or you can save for review. And if you save for review, it's going to pop up in your borrowing quick links as something for you to look at. And So there's that. You can work on it later. And this is where it'll show up. It'll be at the very top here. Okay. Okay. Now this is my current requests page. So I went ahead, we were back here, and I clicked on produced. And this is what I have currently requested but has not been filled yet. So one of my requests is unfilled. It went through all the lenders in the lender string and nobody agreed to lend it. I have one here that's in transit, so it's been shipped. I have one here that is considering, and that just means that the library, maybe they have to go to see if it's on the shelf, make sure that they actually have it or not. And then here you have your patron information and your lenders. Okay, and so over here you see we have renewal denied and overdue. These are items that I need to get with my patron about, because one library said they wouldn't renew it, and then there are 3 patrons that have overdues. So I need to contact them and let them know that they need to get it back ASAP. As far as the renewals, I will let patrons know that I can request it from a different library if they're going to need more time with it, but they need to go ahead and return it because the renewal has been denied. And these are all of my items that are currently in use. And you see here you have your due dates. I'm going to look at this particular item and we'll talk about how you can renew or return an item. So here is the ultimate guide to wiring that my customer has out. If she wants to renew that item, all I have to do, I don't have to call anybody or email anybody necessarily. All I have to do is click on renew item and choose a date from the little calendar. If I want a desired date, you don't have to put one in, but you can. And then I can click on return item over here if the patron has returned it and I'm ready to ship it back to the library that lent it. And that will update their screen so that they know it's on its way back to them. Also, if your patron loses an item, there is a lost button here that you can click on. Okay, now here's an article with a citation that I received, just to go over articles. We are going to go over a little bit, it looks like, unfortunately. So I'm going to try to kind of rush through this part. So this is an article request that I got. I had the title of the article, the author, and the volume, but they didn't provide what journal it was published in or when it was published. So I went ahead and Googled the title in quotes, and I came up with the Journal of Teacher Education with an ISSN and a publication year of 2024. And I find the easiest way to get journals is the ISSN. So I just stick that in there and click search. And again, we always sort by library count highest usually. And then I'm just going to click on that first one, all holdings, because there are a whole lot of holdings on that particular journal. And here are all the different libraries that have it. I have chosen 5. We generally choose libraries that do free copies. But we will pay, again, up to $25 for an item. And then here is where it's really important to look at the years that the library has so that you make sure that you're not requesting from a library that doesn't have 2024, Okay, so I've made that request. I have my articles constant data here. I'm going to go ahead and do copy, because I'm just wanting a copy of the article, and then you will have to fill in this information. So the journal information goes ahead and populates, but the specific article that you want, you're going to put in the article title, the article author, volume, issue, and then the date. If you don't have all that information, you can try just putting in what you have, and then if your patron has a need before date, you can also enter that. And on down the page, it's going to show you all your lender information, your lenders that you've requested their information. And then at the very bottom of the page is more information about how you want to receive the article. We use Article Exchange. Also, email information on how to contact you if there are any questions. And again, that copyright information, that copyright statement is going to come up. And since it's 2024, that's less than 5 years, so Con2 applies. And just go up to the very top here, click Send Request, and you're on your way.
I did have one question.
Okay, let's see, what was the question?
That if you lend,
Do you have to lend if you participate in this? Ideally, you would, by the code. So, yeah, if you just want to lend to libraries that are close to you or libraries that are in Kentucky, you can set that up in your policies. But if you do borrow, ideally, you would want to lend out as well. Okay. So lending. You can set up deflections for lending, and that's another one of those efficiencies that's just really helpful. If you have non-circulating collections, if you have certain limits on your lending, like you do in state only, if you only lend materials that are older than a year, you can set that up in deflections. You do that in the policies directory, and it's super easy to do. So again, under quick links, other, you're going to find that policies directory link. You're going to go here and click on that tab, and you're just going to add. It is going to have a pop-up, and you just add your information in there, and there you go. You've got your deflection. Okay, so can you supply? These again are the ones that you're going to work. Here's an example of one that I have yet to fill. When I do go in to fill it, I am going to hit default because I have constant data for that. It automatically populates my due date here. I tend to lend for 6 weeks. I started doing that during COVID to give people more time because I knew it was harder to get to the library and stuff like that. And I continued doing that. So I lend for 6 weeks. And then the title, Galveston Diet, it's going to automatically populate all that there. Here are the people that the request was made to. So I think we're kind of right there in the middle. And then here's the borrower's information, the person that is requesting the item from us. And here is our information, again, because I've selected default constant data. All that information, I've already set that up to go ahead and populate, so I don't have to type all of it in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose yes, or I can say no. There are a number of different reasons why you might say no, and there's a drop down that you can get, and you can say it's a policy problem, or you're not licensed to fill it if it's digital or what have you. Before you click yes, if you want to use their paperwork, to generate their paperwork, you need to click on print bookstrap and print shipping labels if it's out of state, or if it's a library that doesn't use the Courier, KYVL Courier service. Then you can click yes if you're going to lend it. And again, if you say no, you don't have to give a reason, but you can. If conditional is, I've had people on requests that I've made say conditional if, for example, it's in library use only, or if my max charge is 25 and they actually charge 30, will I accept, will I pay more, that type of thing. You can click one of these conditionals and then you can actually type stuff in. It'll bring up a little box. And then if you decide to accept the condition, you can click on yes, or if you click no, it's going to go on to the next lender. But if you decide when you're lending that you want to put a condition on it, you can choose from one of these. Now, it's very, very, very important to make sure you have the material in hand. Even if it says it's available in the circulation system, it may not be on the shelf. We have stuff that's missing from time to time. So make sure that you don't go ahead and say, yes, you'll lend it, and then you go to the shelf and it's not there. Because you cannot unmark that in WMS. The only thing you can do is write a sheepish email or make a phone call sheepishly apologizing for the fact that you in fact do not have it, they're going to have to cancel their request and make a new one. So, now as far as the shipping paperwork is concerned, every resource you lend needs to go out with identifying paperwork. And some libraries have their own, or you can again use WMSs. In order to do that, you go to Print Queue and you just click on the title, click Print, and then that's going to bring up your book strap for you to print, or your shipping label, or your return label, whichever you're doing. Now you can recall items. Your patrons come first. If your patron wants a resource you've lent via ILL, you are fully within your rights to recall that material. And that should be an issue that you probably would put in your loan policy. Some libraries choose not to recall items. It just depends. It's real simple. You just go into your lending request, you pull up the particular requests that you want to recall, and you click on recall item. You might want to do that, of course, if like your patron comes in and desperately needs that item. Then you'll ask the library that you lent it to send it back ASAP. Now, as far as article exchange is concerned, we use article exchange to get and send articles. And we are not, again, licensed to fill from our subscription databases or anything like that, but sometimes people will request a newspaper article from microfilm that we have. So we'll go get that from the microfilm, scan it, and then send it on to them. And what we do is you just click Article Exchange on the quick links, do Choose File, bring it up from your computer, and then click Drop. What that's going to do is when they get an alert, they'll click on the alert and it'll say it's available, and they will have a link that's unique to that item as well as a password to put in. And so they'll click on the link, put in that password, and there will be their article to download. Okay, and so that we can get on to Ilona's portion. So I'm going to go through this pretty quick just to wrap up. You can get usage statistics through ILL. So you'll click on usage statistics, put in your information there. And then we usually look at the borrower activity overview report and the lender activity overview report. And that really just shows you like how many requests you've received, how many requests you've canceled, how many you've filled, whether loans or copies, that type of thing. So if you need any type of stats for reports, you can get them from here. You can choose the number of months. So we have 6 here. Also, I just want to point out they have excellent training resources. So you can just click on WSILL training resources. That will bring you to their training page. You can do trainings by topic. You can do a keyword search up here at the top. They have videos that will take you through step by step. They also do live webinars from time to time. And the final thing I wanted to point out is there is a system status dashboard. And it looks like this. You can subscribe to updates, which I would recommend, and you will get emails if the system has degraded, if it's like acting wonky or something, and you're wondering, is it my computer, is it our Wi-Fi connection, is it our internet, what have you. Just subscribe to updates. You can also go to the dashboard and it'll show all their applications. Here's Interlibrary Loan. If it's green, it's good to go. So you know the problem may be on your end and not from their end. They also email you with when they're going to do system maintenance, when they're going to have live webinars and things of that nature. So I would subscribe to updates. Does anybody have any questions before we move on? I think we're about ready to move on to Ilona's portion.
There are a few questions in the chat. One question is there a way to upload a library's collection using this software so that they can learn?
So what you would need to do is actually contact OCLC and have them batch load your holdings, which means they would match them against holdings in OCLC so that you're able to lend. So you would have to contact OCLC support to discuss that.
Thank you, Kathy. Something I did not know.
Just got some information.
And I see we use Destiny Follett for circulation and collection management. Is there a way to upload? That's the one you just got. Got it. Okay. Yay. All right. Okay. I guess we're ready to move on then. So Ilona Burdette should be coming on here shortly. Again, I so apologize for this going over the way it did and all the technical issues we've had. I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic now.
Hi, Debbie, and hi, everybody. Thank you. This is Ilona. I've been on listening and learning, and I am here from the Kentucky Virtual Library. Debbie's already explained that KYVL and KDLA are not the same. We're in different parts of state government, but we have a close collaboration, particularly when it comes to Courier. And in right shortly before COVID, actually, right early in 2020, KYVL moved office buildings in Frankfurt, and our space was very different. We had very little space, and deliveries were very complicated. And at that time, well, I'll get my acronyms wrong, KDLA took over the courier supplies for us. So that was a tremendous help to us. If you need courier bags, if you need courier totes, the plastic totes for your supplies, those are now all handled, distributed through KDLA, and we thank them very much for that. Because it's a tremendous help. Also, they have 5-day-a-week service. When we did have courier service, it was only a day a week, so it's a really much better system than it was at one time. Also, just a note, and you'll see this name and email at the end of the presentation. We have someone in the office named Nan Harness, and she does not work directly for KYVL. We're part of the Council on Post-Secondary Ed, and Nan has a lot of different responsibilities within CPE. But she does our day-to-day courier troubleshooting, stops, checking on stops didn't come, driver didn't come, contact stat courier for things like that. So you'll see Nan's email and address. If you email me, that is fine, but I will probably hand you right off to Nan, so just let you know that. Okay, so we are going to look at the courier form. I really will be brief. I was only given a short amount of time. I will go through this. I'm going to try to do it from the slides, but I also have the ability to share a screen and use the form live if that turns out to be more helpful to folks. Please, if you have questions about how to use the courier form, let me know, and then just general questions. So you will log in, as you can see, at courier.kyvl.org. You will log in using your library's OCLC symbol. That's both your username and your password. It's not a super secure system, but it is one that we've never had any trouble with. So if you are KL pound or KJ6 or you name it, that's your username and your password. When you come in, you will be building a courier order. This form is a big upgrade from what the courier form used to be, but it's also, we know there's some things that need to be improved and fixed on it, but we're just sort of down the line in terms of getting development time for the form. So you're welcome to let us know any problems that you have. We will fix broken things, but in some cases it's not ideal. So you can type into the to library where you're sending your content, and you can type anything. So if you see the line for KYD, Boyle County Public, S-102 for the sort code, any piece of that will start filtering the list. I wish we had a slightly bigger box, but then you can use these up and down arrows to navigate the list, or the further you type, the more it will filter, and eventually you'll be down to the library that you're looking for. You will set your pickup date, and you're ready to begin adding to your order. At this point, there will be a shipping container. You grab a green bag, and on the green bag somewhere you'll see the barcode number. Well, that goes here. Or you have a larger container, a rolling container from KDLA or any other kind of shipping container. There will be a tag with a barcode. If there's not, a barcode needs to be added, and your library may have a supply. Typically, you'll have one. You can reach out to us if you have any trouble with barcodes. You'll tell us how many things are going in the package. So you're lending some things and you're returning some things. Also, if you are using the WMS ILL, like Debbie was just showing you, you can, at your option, put those ILL numbers in there, and that's just for your own reference. Once you do that, I am looking for my mouse, but it's gone from this screen. At that point, you see this, the circle in red, you would add, there it goes, you would add the item. Once you click add item, now notice there's nothing down here in items for shipment, there's nothing, but we're going to click add item, and there's something there now. Well, I added 3 things at once, but there you would add one, and they keep building the order down below here. There is a delete button here. We just recently learned that this is a sort of a flaw in the software design. And so the interaction between software and users results in some unintended consequences, and I'll explain that in a moment. If my order to Meade County is incorrect, I figured out I could slip a 4th thing into the bag, for example. I can delete it and do it over again. But if I'm actually going to go ahead and ship that, we're not going to click these delete buttons any longer for anything that really gets shipped. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But anyway, the form itself is actually pretty simple to use. We just can cause ourselves problems by doing things we didn't intend to do. Once your order is complete, you can print shipping labels. And I believe, yeah, I have a slide coming forward. I think it'll show you that. Once you click this button, what will happen is a PDF will save to your downloads folder. It may open automatically, but when you click this, it won't appear on your screen. It will show up in your downloads. And it'll look sort of like that. You will have there's your barcode number. So it is iReadable. That is the barcode number. So if you do these labels and you haven't put everything in your bags yet, you can match items to the bags that they're supposed to go in. There's the barcode number. There's where it's going. Here's where it's from, and this big thing in the middle is how the courier sends things, S102, E212, and so on, and your library has one of these codes. And then at your option, you can download, again, click the pickup form, it will download, you can save it to your computer, print it, whatever you want to do with that for your own records. And that will look something like this. This is based on the pretend order I made a little bit earlier. We recently, when we discovered the delete problem, this do not please click the delete button, what we learned about our own software, we don't have a courier stuff, we don't build orders, we did not know this, and this was something really important to learn. When you're going to do a new courier order, if you click the courier order button, it clears everything out, it saves it to our stats, so it will sort of record that particular thing to the usage stats for your library and for the whole system. And just, we have added this workflow update. If you're used to doing that, if that's been your workflow, it's nobody's fault, but please let's change that workflow now. And from now on, do not click the delete button. You can delete individual items if they're incorrect, but once you're done with an order, click courier order, it'll clear everything out and you can start again. The other thing that we really would like for you to be aware of is kyvl.org/courier. That's part of the KYVL website. There are courier pages. There's lots more forms. So there's the pickup form that we were just looking at, report library close dates. There are some state holidays. We'll put a notice up in there in the same fashion. Let me back up a couple clicks right here. We do, once you're logged into the courier form, we do make announcements here. We used to send out messages to the courier news list to say, hey, we're going to be closed for Memorial Day. We don't do that now. We post this message in there. The Memorial Day message should appear pretty soon. And what it'll say is, if you're closed for Memorial Day, that's fine. That's a state holiday. We are not going to run the courier anyway. If you're going to be closed other days around Memorial Day, please enter it. This applies more at Christmas or Thanksgiving, certain days that your library will be closed that are not the official state holidays. And if you turn in a close date for Memorial Day, it doesn't do any harm at all. So you'll see notices of that sort. We do encourage you to report those close dates. If we get that reported, we turn it into stat. Stat does not stop. We don't get charged for that stop. That means that's in this, I think we're up to, it's over $40 now every time the courier stops at your library. And if they don't stop that day, that's $40 that does not get spent on that. If you need these Courier totes, bags, and barcodes, you can do that. And again, it comes to you through KDLA. If you have been accumulating them, please send them back. There's a sort of fixed number in the system, and if people have them tucked away on shelves and piled up into boxes, and they're in your own way, they're also needed through the system. So what you would do in the case of the bags, just zip 10 bags into another bag and address it to KDLA and send that on back. If you have totes, please don't store the library Christmas tree in one. Instead, just if you have accumulated too many totes, let your driver know, and that those can be picked up and taken back as well. There's a claim form. Thank goodness this is used very, very infrequently. That's if your materials are damaged or missing, you can look in there. If there's a missed stop, there's also a way to report that. I was here, the driver came too early, the driver came too late, the driver didn't come at all, I haven't seen my driver lately. If your library is going to be doing something unusual, like we're on the next block down for a while we renovate, we're closed for training, any of those things, please let us know those in advance so that we can work with the courier to help get your service running as smoothly as it can be. There is this track a package by barcode. It's sort of tracking. We don't scan at every time the package is touched. We scan when it's picked up, and by we, of course, the folks who are handling it, it's scanned when the package is picked up. It's scanned when the package is delivered. It's not scanned when it gets to or leaves the sorting hub. So we can only find out sort of the last time we know about, but nevertheless, you do have some ability to, we can troubleshoot and look for packages and find some that way. Also on the Courier pages, a few other highlights. There is a page with routes and schedules. You can see who else is on your route, what time your courier is supposed to be there. If you are finding that the courier is not coming at the time that is indicated, if it's not a problem for your library, that's fine. If it is a problem, let us know. We'll work with STAT to try to resolve that. And when I say we, probably Nan will do that. But also, if you just notice that your stop time is set for 10 o'clock and the courier is always there at 11, let us know. We need STAT to adapt the schedule to be accurate within, say, 30 minutes either way of when the courier really gets there. We talked about packaging and supplies, but also there's a little bit of detail on the site about what can be shipped and what the requirements are. There's a page for issues and concerns. It mentions bed bugs. Spoiler alert, on occasion there are bed bugs. We don't generally report who had them or where they last were or whether the items were being borrowed or returned. Like anything else, like any patron who takes a book home and you run the risk of it coming back with bed bugs, they're just in the system and we just have to be vigilant. Very, very few problems, but that's a reality of trading materials in this day and age. This survey went out recently. You can still, it's now May, but it says April. If your library has not filled this out yet, you still can. Mostly we're trying to get folks to confirm the number of stops. If we don't hear from you, we're going to assume that you want the same number of stops. We've done it that way for a couple of years and it has not been a problem. The cost has gone up just a little if you have more than one weekly stop. The first weekly stop, as probably all courier libraries are aware, is at no cost, and additional stops, they will now be $2,000 per stop on an annual basis. And this is just, this is also on that same form. If you have some things and you can return them. Debbie, I don't know if you're starting to see some returns coming your way, but we have had several libraries indicate that they will send some things back, and hopefully those are coming in to KDLA now. And so here we go. Nan Harness, there's her name and address. She's a delightful person to work with. I will try to answer any questions that I can, so you're also welcome to reach out to me. And once again, thanks to our partners at KDLA, and I will take any questions you all might have. If they were in chat, somebody let me know. I don't see anything in chat, but I think, can participants unmute? You're welcome to unmute or welcome to drop them into chat. And I do appreciate also Debbie and all the folks who put on this webinar, allowing KYVL to piggyback. I am glad to be able to be with you all today, and thank you all for being part of the KYVL Courier service and for being members of KYVL. We appreciate having you.
Thanks, Ilona. Appreciate all that good information. Let's see here. I'm going to go back to a couple last slides here. Again, we do use, yes, Tricia's got that out in the chat. However, we will be sending you an email. It's going to have a survey link. You can get into PDFs and slides. There are slides available. They are not available once you get out of the webinar. So you want to go back to the beginning where you logged in and click on PDFs and slides to get those slides. And I just really want to thank you again for being here with us today and for all that you do. And we'll be editing this and hopefully getting it up in the archived webinar so you can listen to it and watch it at your convenience. Have a great day, and weekend's coming up. And so, well, this is hump day, isn't it? So I hope y'all have a great day, and that there were some things here that we were able to answer for you. I'm going to go ahead and mute the mic. If you have any additional questions, feel free to go ahead and chat those in, and we'll be here for about 5 more minutes. Take care.